It is the End Machine right here on the Classic Metal Show with No Game. And you're right, Chris. That definitely would have fit comfortably on the second Lynch Mob release.
Doesn't it sound a lot like Bed of Roses?
It does.
No
It's
Bed of Roses?
very, very much so. It is definitely a standout track on that disc.
It's good stuff.
It is. It is. It's Lynch Mob.
Mm-hmm.
I get, because it's Mick and George and obviously Jeff Pilson and Robert Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the Pilson factor, it's the second lineup of Lynch Mob.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Doc and Pilson, or Doc and Lynch.
Yeah, it's more Lynch, though.
Yeah, it sounds more Lynch Mob than Doc-y. The whole record is, that slow, almost southerny guitar that Lynch morphed into once he left Dokken.
Yeah, of course.
So, whatever. I like it.
They could have very easily called that a Lynch Mob record, and everybody would go, oh, yeah, it sounds like Lynch Mob.
Yeah. Well, maybe Jeff will join now that Sean McNabb has left.
I doubt it. Jeff's got a good gig with Foreigner, and doesn't look like Foreigner will be slowing down anytime soon, especially with all these nostalgia rock bands being so popular now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, Jeff's going to ride that till he can't play anymore.
Well, why wouldn't he?
I don't blame him.
I mean, you got to think about this, and I know we've talked about this, but I'll just touch on this just a little bit. That is just amazing that a band who had the majority of their hits in the late 70s into the early 80s can be touring as an entity without any original members. I mean, obviously, Mick Jones is the sole owner of Foreigner, but he doesn't play all the shows. He shows up periodically. So the lineup that plays the Foreigner gigs, they're not even the lineup. They're just the band that plays Foreigner songs.
It's a cover band, but that's fine.
But it sells.
It's a testament to how, A, the band is good, but B, it's a testament to how great those songs were, too. Those songs were definitely great.
Well, they were great songs, but the fact that they pull them off so well with Kelly Hansen, because obviously the biggest feature part of those songs is the vocal delivery.
Yeah. Now, they do. I mean, I've seen that tour or that show several times now, and it's a great show. And if you don't know what those guys looked like back in the 80s, which I really don't. Mick Jones or Mick I sort of knew, and Lou Gramm I sort of knew, but just when you just hear it, it sounds just like Foreigner back in the day.
Yeah, it's a faceless band. That's what it's a faceless band. I mean, there's just a couple of bands out there still running around that would be faceless, and up until the MTV era, Foreigner would be considered one of those bands. Chicago would be considered one of those bands. I mean, can you name outside of Peter Cetera the other members of Chicago?
No, there's the guy that shot himself in the face.
Yeah, Terry Kath.
And there's the chef guy, but he's like later in life,
Jason
right?
Chef, yeah.
That's it for me.
That's what I'm saying. They're kind of a faceless band.
Dude, Loverboy. And that was in the MTV era. But other than Mike Reno, you can't name anybody.
True.
Something Dean?
Yeah.
Mike Dean, Paul Dean, something? Guy that can swim?
Paula Dean.
Paula Dean?
The racist cook.
Yeah. Was that the guy that couldn't swim? The Dean guy?
I don't remember who the guy who died in who drowned.
Yeah, but I mean, who remembers these guys? Nobody. Nobody ever remembers those people. Unless you were a huge band in the 80s, people don't remember you.
No.
Who was in Billy Squire's band? Nobody knows. Who was in John Cougar Mellencamp's band?
Well,
nobody except you knows.
Yeah, exactly.
You who's a big giant fan might know, but if you were just a casual fan, nobody knows.
You don't know. Yeah, you just know who John Mellencamp is.
Yeah, exactly. And dude, I know you're a fan and all, but what's up with dude's hair? What is that look that he has going?
What, that high spike in the front?
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. He's been doing that for a while.
Looks like a jagoff. Looks like he doesn't realize that 1956 turned the calendar.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's the whole nostalgia thing that he definitely fixates on.
Yeah, it's a stupid look.
Yeah, well, he's been doing that for a while.
Yeah, and I love his music. I hate his politics, love his music, but that look, my goodness, dude, brush your hair.
Well, I see it. He and what's her face, that goofy actress, are off again.
What, broke up?
Yeah. Well, it's not Melanie Griffith. It's the other one, Meg Ryan.
Were they a couple? I didn't even know.
Oh
that.
yeah, they dated for a while, and then they broke up, and then they got back together, and now they're broke up again. Such drama.
Yeah. Well, at least he got some celebrity poon here and there.
Yeah,
Good
sure.
for him.
Well, the guy's pushing 70.
He fucked Christy Brinkley too. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's a girl that's pushing 70 and still looks like she's 25.
Yeah, she cut it off with him because he was too hick.
Too hillbilly? Nice.
Too hillbilly for her, yeah. Because she's an uptown girl, by the way.
She isn't. Well, dude, I'm gonna put this picture in the chat room of him and her.
Yeah.
I could definitely see why he fucking left her behind. Good Lord, look at this shit. This is disgusting. This tells me that being a fat fuck, all I need to do is make more money, and I can get anything I want.
Oh yeah, well, money. We've talked about that a million times. Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
If I could just make some money, look at that hair.
I know.
He looks like that. I can't even remember what was it. The good one, Demon. He looks like Wolverine.
Yeah,
very true. I don't know what that is. That's a look.
Yeah, that's Bloomington, Indiana. Farm boy made good.
Man, he was just fucking bending that over and sticking it in the ass. Good for him. Good on him.
Well, you gotta tip your hat to the hit it and quit it factor there.
He was banging a cougar in her melon dumper.
According to Christy Brinkley, he lacks sophistication for her.
Yeah, but she had no problem with his bank account. I'm sure she made sure that she was a signer on whatever fucking Mayberry bank he banks at.
That's pretty funny.
It's true though, you know it.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to do something here that I rarely do.
Okay. What? Call it a night. All right. No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to actually tell a story about myself.
Oh, all right.
So before we do that,
right?
It's time for the Classic Metal Show to start begging for email.
What the hell is email?
Death sent me an email.
Well, when you figure it out, email me.
And here's your loser beggars, Neeley and Chris.
You've got mail.
Well, we got mail this week.
Okay.
It's not about Chris Aiken this time.
Good.
It's a email from Christina Williams.
Okay.
And she writes.
Do we know Christina Williams?
I don't know Christina Williams. She's a fan.
Okay.
Apparently. She wrote us an email.
Welcome.
Hello. I'd like to hear more about how Neeley got into trucking, best and worst memories, why he left, and does he recommend it as a career?
Good God. Write a book, Neeley.
So I was trying to formulate this in my mind, not to make it boring, and just kind of get to the meat and potatoes of this without dragging it out too much.
Okay.
But I come from a trucking background. My father was in trucking for the most part all of his life. Mm-hmm. And as a young kid, if I had the opportunity to go to the truck terminal where my dad worked, it was always a big deal to go, because what my dad did is he was the garage operations manager for a trucking company that was based out of Chicago, and then he moved called Cooper Jarrett.
Okay.
And periodically on a Saturday or something, he would have to go down there for whatever reason to check on a few things, and he would allow me to go with him. And when I went, sometimes maybe one of the yard guys or one of the mechanics would say, hey, you want to hop in the truck and take a ride around the yard here, or park this truck or something,
Sure.
So it kind of gets in your blood as a kid, and you should know this. Your dad was a trucker.
Loved it.
So you went out on the road and, spent some time on the truck with your dad.
Every summer I spent a couple weeks out on the road.
Yeah. So, with that influence in mind, that was something for me. And then my dad got hired off to Roadway, and they're one of the last of the old trucking companies left out there. They merged with Yellow Freight about 10 years ago.
Right.
So it's YRC now, Yellow Roadway. But
okay.
But regardless of that, he went to work for Roadway, and through that influence and being around trucks and stuff, I always had an interest in that. And I went to school. I got a degree in automotive diesel technology and a business degree in things, and with the sole purpose of getting into maintenance management for a trucking company.
Okay.
Being like a garage operations manager or something like that.
Sure.
So when I graduated college, those jobs weren't just like available at the time. So I started off just turning a wrench at a small truck shop. Mm-hmm. I think I told the story. I think it was like last week, if I'm not mistaken. And so then I moved on up to, I got hired off about a year later at a Freightliner dealership to be a service writer in the maintenance shop there. That's where I would talk to the driver or the owner of the truck and write up their work order and give it to the shop, and the shop would do the maintenance and the repairs, and then I would close the work order out and bill the customer. So I had that job.
Okay.
Well, then I got hired off by Roadway, and that's how I ended up in California. I had put in my application, and of course, with a little help with, it's the who you know deal.
Sure.
My dad's superiors, the people at the Roadway corporate office, which was based there in Akron, Ohio, they said, yeah, we're going to give your boy a chance. We're going to give your son a chance. We got a new program. It's a garage supervisors training program. We've never done it before. Your son's going to be the first, one to do it.
Okay.
And if he's interested, we're going to send him to our operations out in California.
Cool.
So I went to California, and I became a garage supervisor out there. I supervised 50 mechanics at a major line haul garage for Roadway, and basically did that for 6 years. I moved up to a garage operations manager by the time I was like 25.
All right.
So, by the time I was like 20, 25, 26 years old, I had already, been a mechanic. I worked for Freightliner. I, worked at Roadway. I worked my way up to, garage operations manager. And this was in the very early part of the 90s by that time.
Right.
And this was California, and the recession hit out there. And things were kind of, very depressed. And so a lot of these big corporations were downsizing at that time. Okay. And when I started with Roadway, there were, there were 16 supervisors total when I started there. By the time I left there in 91, there was 6. So 10 positions got eliminated, and all of the work that all 16 of those supervisors did basically were put on the shoulders of the 6 that were left.
Right.
So no extra money, No
Nope.
raises, no nothing.
Just do it or lose your job.
And basically that's what boiled down to. So it got to the point to where I was so overwhelmed with the responsibilities that I had that I just decided I was done. I had enough.
Right.
And I quit.
Makes sense.
And so at that time, at the exact same time that this was all going on, I was foolishly involved in a relationship that went south really, really bad. It was probably one of the worst breakups I ever had in my life.
Okay.
The girl that I was involved with, she kind of really fucked me over big time. And just to make it very brief, I was paying a lot of her bills and I was paying her rent and all kinds of things. And basically I found her in bed with another dude.
Nice.
Yep. Walked in on him.
Nice. That's fun.
All right. So not only did that affect my job and affect my relationship and affect my, everything that I was there for, I was just like, you know what? I'm so done here. I got to get out of here.
All right.
So the only thing that I could think of doing is, you know what? I'm just going to go out on the road and drive a truck.
Okay.
So there was an opportunity. The truck driving business was starting to flourish because there's two segments of the trucking industry out there. There's the truckload carriers, which is a full load, belongs to one customer, and then they have what they call LTL, which is less than truckload, which means if you got one box or 10 boxes or a whole trailer full of stuff, it gets mixed in with everybody else's freight going in the same direction.
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense to you or not.
Does to me.
But regardless of that, the truckload industry was starting to pick up steam. Some of the bigger truckload companies out there, and I'm sure most of you have seen them on the road, J.B. Hunt or Schneider or Swift, or, I'm sure you've seen some of those big trucking companies out there, Warner. So J.B. Hunt was hiring, and they were also training. I didn't have a CDL at the time. And they were going, yeah, if you come to work for us, we'll give you training, we'll do this, we'll do that. I was like, yeah, sounds like a good deal. So I got a hold of them. They said, okay, well, we're interested, but you're going to have to relocate.
Okay.
We don't have any positions in Southern California. We have positions open in Louisville, Kentucky. So you can go there if you want.
All right.
So I said, all right, I'll go to Louisville, Kentucky. So I just packed up and went to Louisville. Got a place over in Louisville, which was stupid because I never was there.
Right.
And so I went to training. I went to Arkansas, which is where J.B. Hunt's headquarters are. It's also the headquarters of Walmart. I don't know if you were familiar, but J.B. Hunt's wife and Sam Walton's wife were sisters.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So, J.B. Hunt is located in Lowell, Arkansas, and the home office of Walmart is in Bensonville, Arkansas, which they're like five miles apart.
Okay.
So there's a big relationship there. But regardless of that, I went to truck driving school, got a CDL, got my own truck, and basically for me, one of the biggest reasons for getting into it to begin with, I never thought that I would ever go drive a truck for a living. But it was a nationwide job. I didn't have a relationship. I had no really reason to be anywhere at any time. So for me, it was a good thing because it was like a therapy. It was like I was out on the road. I was on my own. I was traveling cross country. I visited all 48 states. Got to go to a lot of places I would have never just traveled to on my own. So I got to see the country. And then, about the second year into driving, I was approached to be a driver trainer. And that meant that guys coming out of truck driving school, they had to be on the truck with you for 6 weeks, and you would teach them all the ins and outs of doing that job. So I became a driver trainer. The upside of being a driver trainer is that you drove as a team, so you got a lot more miles. And I got paid all of the rolling miles that truck rolled, and the trainee would get paid a weekly salary.
Right. Okay.
So if we rolled up, 5,000-6,000 miles a week, I got paid all 6,000 miles.
All right. Well, that's good.
So I was knocking down probably $1,200 to $1,500 a week.
All right.
As a driver trainer. This was back in 1992.
Good coin back then.
So I got my finances straight. I put some money away. I made some bank. And then foolishly, after about 2 years of doing this, I got involved with another chick. Who, strangely enough, worked for Roadway.
Okay. She
worked at the Roadway corporate headquarters.
All right.
And I met her through some mutual friends, and so when I'd roll through town, which is where my dad lives, I would swing in there on the weekend if I was coming through, and stay at my dad's place, and I'd go visit with this chick and hang out.
Throw her quick banging out.
Yeah, basically. And so it got to the point to where, oh, you're gone all the time. When are you going to be home? Blah 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 blah.
Ugh.
So there was another trucking company called MS Carrier, and they were a regional company, and they basically said, well, you're just gone for 5 days, you're home every weekend. And they guaranteed you a certain salary. So I think I was making like about between $700 and $1,000 a week, be gone Monday through Friday.
All right.
So I signed on with them, and it was a good company, had good trucks, good routes, everything, and sure as shit, I was home every weekend.
Nice.
So I was home to spend the weekend with the new chick.
Okay.
So I did that for 2 years, but during the whole time I was on the road, what went through the back of my mind was I always wanted to get into radio, because when you're on the road driving the truck, you all you got to do is either listen to CDs or listen to radio.
Right.
So during the time I was on the road and traveled the country listening to a lot of radio, I thought, man, there's a lot of bad DJs out there. These guys don't know, anything, because at this time corporate radio was being taken over slowly by the corporations. And so it went away from the personality radio of each individual DJ having their own thing to, more or less just reading off the script.
And dude, is there anything worse? And you could continue this in a second, but just since you're talking about radio and driving, when you're riding in the truck and you're listening to something good, like Stern or something, and then you drive out of range. Yeah,
well, that happened quite a bit.
That sucks. And then you go from listening to something fun like classic era Stern to, the Bubbles and Whoopsie show in whatever town, and it's like two bumpkins in some fucking country station, and you just sit there listening to it, and you're like, what the fuck? Where's my CDs? I'm done with this shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
So, to try to answer some of these questions before I continue the story, well, obviously, I just told you how I got into trucking.
Right.
Some of the best memories. Well, during the time that I was a driver trainer, I had a couple of trainees that that I gelled with pretty well, and it was like a, I don't know what you want to call it. It was just like a free for all, running down the road, driving across the country, cranking out some good tunes, cutting up, just. It was kind of like a modern day, what do you want to call it, Dukes of Hazzard. Just kind of out there, just kind of running the roads and just kind of having a good time. I guess it would be akin to having military buddies.
Right. Okay.
And those were some pretty good times. Some of the worst memories, and I know the industry has changed quite a bit since I did this, but this was back when you could be hung up on one load for like 2 days straight.
Right.
You get into a warehouse or something, and they're all backed up, and it's a lot what they call live unload, where you don't just drop your trailer and pick up a empty and roll out of there. You had to wait till a dock space opened, and then they would unload you.
Right.
But you would have to wait till that time happened, and sometimes you'd be laid over 24, 35 hours.
And there's nothing worse than that either, because you're not allowed to just go and unload it yourself.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. You just got to wait.
Yeah, you just have to sit in the cab and wait and watch TV or listen to the radio while their union guys take breaks and don't bust their ass to get your truck unloaded.
Exactly. So that was probably one of the worst things. The other worst part was like going into like New York City or Long Island.
Yeah.
That was always a tough road going into congested areas like that. That was something that you didn't necessarily want to deal with, especially if you went into some like grocery warehouse over there, because you had in the industry, I don't know if they have them anymore. I'm sure they do somewhere, but they used to have what they called lumpers.
Okay.
What they were is they were for hire guys who, if you went into some of these grocery warehouses, you were responsible for unloading your own truck.
Right.
And, you had a whole truckload of canned goods, and it's all loaded on the floor. It's not on pallets. And you would have to stack those boxes on pallets and drag them out of there one pallet at a time.
Right.
So they had guys out there called lumpers, and they were basically hired dock workers is what they were. They were there to unload your truck, and you would pay them X amount of dollars to get in there and unload your truck for you.
Right.
So that was kind of a pain in the ass. I don't know if they even do that anymore, but regardless of that, and of course, bad weather. Bad weather was always a factor. You get into this time of year, depending on what part of the country you're in, and you run into a bad snowstorm or a bad ice storm or something, and that kind of makes things a little stressful.
Trying to get up a big steep hill on a fucking icy highway.
Exactly.
That's a bitch.
It is. So for the good and the bad, the best part of it for me was being able to drive around the country and see places that I probably would never see.
Sure.
If I were just doing it on my own. And of course, the worst part, as I just mentioned.
Right.
So getting to the how or why that I left. So I after about 4 years of doing this, I was thinking to myself, and I think Howard Stern was a big factor in this, because I discovered Howard Stern. This was the early 90s, mind you.
Sure.
So I heard Howard Stern, and I didn't get to hear him because he was only on in New York and Philadelphia at the time. So if I got over into the Philadelphia or the New York area, I could listen to Howard Stern.
Right.
And of course, he was an anomaly back then. And it was just like, wow, you never heard a guy like this before.
Right.
And so that was one of the factors. And the other factor is even back in the 80s, I did DJ work at a club, and I always wanted to do it in the radio. And I was always discouraged by people. Oh, man, that's a dead-end job. You don't want to do that. That's for losers, things. And people always kind of discouraged me from pursuing that.
Right.
So when I was in the truck after about 4 years of doing this, I thought, you know what? I'm fuck everybody else. I'm going to go to broadcasting school, and I'm going to pursue this broadcasting thing.
Right.
But unfortunately, this was during the Clinton era, and Clinton made it possible for any corporation to own as many media outlets in any market that they wanted to, and that's when Clear Channel came in and kind of swallowed up everything.
Right.
So it was kind of like too little, too late. But that wasn't going to deter me, because I wasn't looking to get into it because I wanted, I'm going to be rich and famous. I did it because I enjoyed it.
Right.
And obviously, when I was at WSTB for 7 years, which is during the time that I met you, there was no money in that. I was spending all my own money.
Right.
I had my own catalog. I did these meet and greet things. I brought in LA Guns for that one thing. And, I paid for all this out of my own pocket.
You were happy to get a free pizza once a week.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I got out of the truck is, well, I was done with it. All right, I've been there, done that. Now what? What's the next challenge?
Right.
So I got went to broadcasting school, got off the truck. I went to work at a truck driving school, and I worked there for close to 5 years teaching truck driving school. It was an 8 to 5 job, Monday through Friday, and it paid the bills, and I was able to do my broadcasting on the weekend. I was able to go to broadcasting school 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right.
And do my show on the weekend. And that's one of the reasons I got out of it, is because that's how I got into radio, and that's why I got out of trucking. So to try to wrap that all up, would I recommend it as a career? It pays good. If you expect to be home every night of the week, again, I've been so distanced from the trucking industry as far as the actual day in, day out stuff. I'm sure that they've probably made things a lot better. I know the trucks are much nicer.
Sure.
I know, and I don't know about the pay and the benefits. I know those have risen, and I know that the industry is, I think the last time I saw some kind of report that the industry is like short 60,000 drivers or something like that.
Yeah, I have a customer he does just that. He staffs drivers to companies, to fleets. Fleets because fleets can't keep enough drivers on a fleet.
Right.
And they're making huge money.
Yeah.
As far as making money now, there's big money in truck driving.
Yeah, you could easily take home $1,000 to $1,500 a week driving a truck. If you expect to be home every night and having a 9 to 5 job, that's not the job to have. If you got a relationship or children at home, or if you don't like to be away from home, that's really not the job for you.
Right.
But if it's the sole purpose of making a good living and maybe eventually getting out of that or moving into a local job or something like that, that's a good stepping stone. Would I recommend it? Yeah, but here's the caveat to that. If you get into truck driving, only the best of the best get in there. And what I mean by that are people who don't have records, people who don't have fucked up driving records, people who keep their license clean. If you like to party, if you like to drink, if you like to smoke weed, if you like to do all those things, this is not the job for you. Because once you get that CDL, if you fuck that up somehow, get busted on a DUI, or you get busted with weed, or something like that, that's the end of your career. It's very, very stringent. Very stringent.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you like to partake, not the job for you.
Yeah. No, definitely not. But yeah, there's big money in it though right now, because there is such a shortage. I will say that there's big money in it, but yeah, you can't. The bottom line is you cannot smoke weed.
Can't smoke, can't drink.
Because they drink, but you can't drink daily. You can't drink on the road.
No, of course not.
You can have a wine or a shot of bourbon with dinner, but you can't drink it constantly. You cannot party. I think that's probably the best way to put it. You cannot party.
Right.
At least during the week. If you're working a 5-day, I guess you can party on the weekends. But yeah, if you get busted, and boy, if you get busted for anything in a truck, multiply that penalty by about 50, because it's a problem.
It is a problem.
Cops do. The cops, they don't like drunk drivers. They don't like drunk drivers in neons. They really don't like drunk drivers in 18-wheelers.
Exactly.
They really don't.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about it, and you got a clean record, and you keep your nose clean, and you're a hard worker, and you're not a whiner and complainer, because it is a tough job. It's tough. Yeah. I mean, you got to face a lot of varying circumstances out there. And if you don't have that acumen or that mentality, it's probably not the job for you.
Yeah.
Because you got 80,000 pounds of freight and rig in your hands going down a highway at 65 and 70 miles an hour, and you make one fuck up, boy, the consequences are devastating.
Yeah, and you always have some asshole cutting you off. That always cracks me up when I see guys that fucking jump in front of an 18-wheeler and then like hit their brakes pretty fast. I'm always like, what, are you stupid?
Yeah, well, they don't think about it.
Fuck that. I do my best to stay the fuck away from trucks as much as I can, in front of them or behind them.
Yeah.
I want nothing to, because, dude, it's so easy. You know, as somebody that grew up in the trucking industry, I remember how tired my dad used to be when he'd be driving. And I always think about that. I always am like, man, this guy might not see me in his mirror because he's true. Tired. You know, run right over my goddamn car.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing is at one point when I was teaching at the truck driving school there in Akron, I actually went around to some of the Akron high schools with a tractor trailer, and I was teaching what they called the no zone campaign as to when you're driving and you're sharing the road with a truck, where not to be. And it would teach the kids where the blind spots were.
Yeah.
And following a truck or riding alongside one or what the case may be. And, I went around with a truck and would teach the kids and hold assemblies at the schools. So I would go to these schools and talk to the entire student body about the no zone campaign.
Where's the worst zone? Is it passenger side?
Yeah, obviously the passenger side, because that's tough to see.
And if you're up, even with the cab, you're just not going to see you at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's scary shit. There, guy starts coming. Nothing worse than when you're driving on the side of a truck and you start seeing it edging over. It's like, oh shit.
Well, see, the part of the no zone campaign is I would take a tractor trailer out to the school, and then I would ask for volunteers to let me borrow their cars, and I would strategically place the cars around the truck.
Okay.
And then the kids, after the little talk inside the school, they could come out and get inside the truck and sit in the driver's seat and look in the mirrors and stuff and see if they could see those cars parked around the truck.
Right.
And they go, well, no, I can't see that. It's like, well, this is like a real life highway situation. This car could be riding alongside you, so don't be the guy in that car.
Yeah, no shit.
Because this driver, he's looking at his mirrors and things, and that car is in his blind spot, can't see you.
Right.
So, that was just one of the safety campaigns that I was involved with as well. Mm-hmm. So, cool. I parlayed my radio celebrity, because at the time I was doing the CMS, and a lot of the kids who listened to the show actually knew who I was when I came to their school.
Right.
So it's like, wow, he's a heavy metal DJ and he's a truck driver. That's cool.
I'm going to listen to you, Mr. Neeley.
Yeah. Well, you talk about taking pictures and signing autographs. Holy shit.
That's funny.
So to wrap that up in a nutshell, that's how I got into it, and that's why I got out of it. And yes, I would recommend it as a career if your personal life circumstances will allow it.
Yeah, but if you're a candidate for live PD, just avoid it.
Yeah, don't even bother.
Yep.
So anyway, there you go.
All right.
Just a little insight as to what my life consists of. But one of the best things it did for me is it was good therapy for me at the very beginning, and got me out of the rut I was in, and I got to see the country, and that's, if you've never been across the country, I would highly recommend it.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's fun. I mean, I only did it I never drove, but I rode with my dad limitedly, a couple weeks a year, and it is fun to get out there and see the different places around the country.
Sure it is.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Got to know, I got to know people at certain stops. If I, went to different truck stops and things, if I was rolling through the area, You know, if they see your face enough, you know, they recognize you. There was this one waitress in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
One of my favorite truck stops at the time was a 76 truck stop. It was outside of Knoxville.
Right.
It was one of the cleanest, well-run truck stops I'd ever been in. And every time I went in there, this blonde waitress, she'd see me in there, you know, and she had that whole syrupy, sweet Southern charm thing about that. Oh,
right.
Good to see you again, hon. Glad to see you come back in and see me, you know, that kind of a thing. And I'd go in there and have something to eat, have some dinner or something, and she'd come sneaking by and just kind of like stop at my table and then slide a piece of pie. That's for you, hon. That's on me.
Try a little peach cobbler there.
Exactly. That's for you, hon. That's on me.
Have a little peach cobbler. I reckon you had a tough week.
Pretty much. Yeah, she was a sweetheart. She was a good-looking girl, always being very friendly.
Did you hit that?
No, I didn't hit that.
Did you want to?
Oh, yeah. She was good. Real nice-looking girl.
So why didn't you hit it?
Dude, I was always on the run. I was always moving.
You had your truck parked in the back.
Yeah, I know, but that didn't mean I could stay around. Sometimes I could only stop for an hour at a time. You know, just enough to get some fuel, get something to eat, and get back on the road.
Right. I hear you.
So that's my story in a nutshell. Maybe someday if I get to writing that book, that'll be a part of it. Maybe someday.
The infamous book.
Yeah. Well, that 25-year mark is coming up here pretty soon, so.
Yep.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Who knows?